They turned the truth into a brand, stamped every surface, every hand. They dressed up lies in sacred guise, but Islam lives where labels die. Assalamu alaikum. Today, I would like to talk with you live on this very important topic. How and why did we end up with this false enterprise, Islam trademarked, where essentially a way of being became a brand, where things started being sold, became commodified, all under the guise of certain guidelines perfected over 1200 years and packaged and refined over all of those centuries up until today. Something that continues to flourish and, by the looks of it, will continue to flourish for times to come as well. How did we get here from what we found elsewise in the Quran? This is essentially the core topic that I thought I would want to cover live. And this is something that I've hinted at the beginning of the series as well, when we started talking about what is the Islam of the Quran, what is the Eeman of the Quran, who is a mu'min, who is a Muslim, and why are those people absolutely not what we are told they're meant to be. So there's this huge discrepancy between what the Quran says, clearly declares, versus what we see all around us. And then we see all this enterprise of goods being sold under the banner and labels of halalified, halal sanction, etc., sharia sanction, etc. Well, what do we do with all of that? We live in a world where the text says something and we see people completely saying something else. There is a huge discrepancy. So today, as I had said from the very beginning of the series, we are here to talk about this. So once more, before I go through, this is the 5th video of the series, Islam and Eeman series. So if you've not seen the first 4 videos, and if you just stumbled upon this video out of accident, or you're going to watch it tomorrow or next year, or I don't know, 10 years from now, I really encourage you go and watch the first 4 videos of the series so you've got some context of what we're talking about. In the comments, I can see that we've got a couple of people out there. So let's find the truth. Abdul Wali, Fayuk Sul, salam alaikum to you. And to those who are going to watch it later. In a way, I'm saying salam to you for your future selves. Whenever you are, I hope to extend the state of Islam to you. My salam to you extends over the time period that separates us for now. But we're going to kick straight into it, right? So today we are actually going to talk or cover 3 main things, not just the main topic. So main topic remains the focus that we've been leading ourselves towards, which is these Islamic labels, these things that we find all around us, that once they become sanctioned by a certain somebody who wears a certain type of a hat, wears a certain type of a cloak, who has got a certain pedigree, scholarship-wise, or there's a body, there's a hay'a, and that body declares that these things are sanctioned. Well, we're going to talk about that topic. But along with that, I also wanted to cover another topic that has come up a few times during comments, and it's something that I have also, I wanted to cover this because I also used to be part of this group. What is that? It is the understanding of the Quran where a lot of even Quran-centric scholars or people would argue that Islam actually means submission. When you submit your will to Allah, then that is Islam. You become a Muslim when you submit yourself to what Allah demands of you. This is what Islam is. What I'm going to argue today is that position is incomplete. With all due respect, this is incomplete. It is not a picture that I think paints, it is not the right way to look at the bigger picture. And I've got a few propositions and a couple of questions that I would like to propose today and spark the conversation, even if you don't take it to its ultimate conclusion today. At least spark the conversation, because I know, and I used to be from that camp. So I guess if you talk from a journey perspective, from where I was personally, from a traditional Sunni Muslim of what we normally understand, towards the second level where we find we believed and we wanted to say that Islam is believing stuff, is saying certain things, and it's essentially laying down your will to what Allah demands of you. And the source for that is the Quran. I'm going to say that there's a deeper understanding of what the Quran really talks about when it uses terms like Islam and Eeman. And the people who do those things, a Muslim and a Mu'min, they're not necessarily cut down to just those groups of people who obey the commands written down specifically in a specific book, but that the Quranic message is vaster. It is more universal. It is a message that truly spans peoples. It spans times. It goes way beyond those even, those boundaries that we tried to stretch in the second stage, but couldn't quite get through. And lastly, if there are people who would like to come up and discuss what we have covered so far in the series, absolutely, this is a chance. For those who know, though I don't mind debating, and for those who know me from my college days, they would argue that I wasn't that bad a debater either. But personally, I'd much rather not debate. I'm much happier to engage in academic discourses, to engage in examination of ideas. If there are things that you don't agree with, or there are things that maybe I am yet to explain or understand properly, more than happy to have a talk about it. Or if there's nothing like that, you just want to have, I don't know, say a couple of words on what you have thought so far as the series has progressed. As I said from the very beginning, today is your chance. So let's proceed and let's get really into it. Oh, and by the way, before I really, before we start talking on the first topic, I am not going to be here very long. I understand this time that I chose may not suit a lot of the English-speaking audience, but unfortunately, this is the time that really works for me. So it had to be this particular time. If it couldn't make it today, I'm sorry. Maybe it could be another time. And secondly, I really don't want to stretch this out to be a marathon of, I don't know, 4 hours or 5 hours or 8 or anything like that. At max, if there are people, it's not going to go more than an hour and a half to 2 hours. I'm sorry, it's just not going to go more than that, because anytime longer than that, I don't think that works well. And as you say, let's find the truth. Yes, again, sometimes work well for some people. So of all those in Europe, UK, Europe, I understand this would be pretty good time. So you guys are probably midday roundabout now. So, it's good for you. It's not good for others. Sorry, we can't make people happy. It's just not possible. So let's start with the first topic, Islamic labels. And in a way, it was the elephant in the room that we continue to kind of ignore whilst we just talked about the Quran. So it was very clear. I would like to think if you've been following all along, then you found something to latch on to so far. So I would like to think that you have at least begun to appreciate the argument that the Quran's Islam is way vaster than what was told to us. So the thing that we didn't really talk about is, what do we do with everything around us that we see called Islamic, these labels that we see all around us? Let me ask you a few questions, because this is, for me, this is the best way of really understanding things, by asking questions. So if let's pose a few questions. Is Islam of the Quran? Is Islam of the Rasul Muhammad? And this is the same Islam, by the way. Let's not be fooled by those who say that the Rasul followed something outside of the Risala. That if he was doing, then he was not obeying the same Risala that he himself as a mu'min and a Muslim was meant to follow. Anybody who says that the Rasul invented, he added stuff, he deleted stuff, he modified stuff from his own Risala, that's not really a good Rasul, is he? Let's be really sincere and honest about it. If I gave you something to pass on to somebody else, and along the way, even though you passed on that message, you said, tell you what, Moses, let's add a couple more things. Let's add a little bit more tang into this particular order. Or that order that the Risala I brought to you, I don't think really applies to us today. Let's just excuse ourselves from applying it today. Anybody who says that, anybody who does that, he is not a good messenger. He is not somebody to be trusted. And anybody who does not understand this very simple point, I really wouldn't want to argue with that person, because over the 5-6 years of my journey, every time I've tried that, I have failed to win that argument, because it's not an argument born or sustained by reason or powered by an intellectual curiosity, but it's really a person lashing out based upon what they know and what they would much rather latch onto. And no matter what you say, they're not going to change their mind, right? But regardless, is the Islam of the Quran the same Islam that the Rasul followed, Rasul Muhammad followed, without a doubt? Is that the things that you buy today that are labeled Islamic. All of those things that if you walk out, if you go to an Islamic country, if you go to an Islamic store in a Western country, you find things that have been sanctioned as Islamic. They carry stickers, all sorts of things. And we'll talk about some of those things. Are those stickers what make things Islamic? Yeah, that's a question that we're really posing. And this, as I said, is the elephant in the room that we didn't really talk about before. We hinted at it. We never really addressed or grappled with it up until now. Let's ask another question. Is Islam something that you wear or something that you practice? Is it an object that you adhere yourself to? Or is it a practice that you undertake? Is it something that you do? Or is it something, as we've been saying from the beginning, you say or you believe in your heart? What is it? What are we really talking about? And the question that from which there's no running away, no running away. In a country, if everything does become Islamic, as are many of our countries today, right? My own beloved country, Islamic Republic of Pakistan, where everything is Islamic, you know, from banking to the governmental system. Sure, you know, it's not perfectly, but we're all getting there. The things that you buy, the food, the salawat in the masajid, you know, all of those, everything that you see around you is Islamic. But where are the benefits of this Islam that are meant to follow? If everything is Islamic, why don't I find that Islam in Pakistan? Why don't I see that Islam in other Muslim countries that I have visited, the so-called Islamic countries? What happened to that Islam? If everything is Islamic, why don't we see Islam? I think it's a very valid question to ask. And that essentially is what leads us to that elephant in the room problem. And the answer that we started with our first, I think, is a very simple one, which is, let's go back for a second to what the Quran's Islam says. Yeah, in the Quran, as we've seen so far, Islam and Eeman, by the way, but Islam in particular is something really simple. It's a state where you are not at war with others. It's you or those or whoever that applies to in that time, whatever that, you know, it could be an organization or a country or a group of people, whatever. You staying in peace, or it's being harmonious with whatever it is that you're trying to sync up with. It is an action. It is something that you do with others. So where is the problem? Where is the problem? The problem is that a trait, an adjective, a way of being has been hijacked, so it became a proper noun. About 1200 years ago, it became a religion, a codified set of practices where you and a lot of other people do certain things in a very specific way that you now begin teaching, and you start writing books. And as such, you begin the process of not only just fossilizing this understanding that you're building upon, but also teaching it to others and passing down to the other generations that basically that comprise us. A proper noun, when we ended up in that situation, when we birthed a religion, that trait and adjective that part was completely wiped out. And that is essentially where we find ourselves in. This is not rocket science. This should not be a very difficult point to understand. However, I have found this something that's not easily explainable to people who don't want to listen. Again, this is not the topic as to why people don't understand this. Maybe some of you might want to talk about this regardless. But all we're really saying is, you know, if we did a surgery, if we did, you know, of finding out what the root cause is, where is the tumor is, that there was something, a trait, an adjective, that was hijacked to become a proper noun that became a religion. I am going to have a quick look at the comments. Of course, so there are a couple of people from Bangladesh as well. Assalamu alaikum to you, Saiful. Yeah, I think this is a good time for you guys as well, and people in the subcontinent. So subcontinent and Europe, I think this time works well. Maybe not for people elsewhere in the world. Having a quick look at some of the other comments. Yeah, Habib Rahman is also from, so at least two Bengalis today, two of our Bengali brothers. I don't mix politics, but isn't this also ironic that our so-called our Muslim brothers, let's go by the traditional understanding, our Muslim brothers from Bangladesh decided that they could not live with the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. Why? Again, I'm not going to get into it, but this is the nifaq that we live in, the hypocrisy that we see all around us. Everything is meant to be Islamic, but why wouldn't you want to live in an Islamic world, Islamic country? Why do we all want to leave these beautiful, fantastic havens of Islam where everything is Islamic to go out in those countries of the kuffar, where they give us more religious expression, where they give us the right to live the way we wish to without causing harm to others in a dignified manner? There is nifaq. There is huge hypocrisy in what we do, what we see around us. We don't talk about it. We don't acknowledge it because truth is painful. Truth is bitter. But that doesn't really change the reality. It does not change the reality. All right, let's continue on. So Islam has become an enterprise, probably a false enterprise. And for those who've caught on to the reference, yeah, I'm a big Star Trek fan. Star Trek way better and way over and absolutely owns Star Wars. Apologies to any Star Wars fans. But Islam, the codified version, the trademarked version, the one with labels, the one that gets sanctioned, that's become a set of practices that's overseen by a group of clergy, self-appointed clergy, that carve out people like them in their own image, to whom they give their own certificates to say the same things that they have listened to and followed from their forefathers, etc. That Islam has become a massive enterprise, far from being just a cottage industry of certain things where maybe they've got their fingers in, their tentacles in, like the fiqh or the traditional, or just the spiritual sphere. This Islam TM, this incorporated, this has spread. This is in every single part of our life. And that is truly a unique phenomenon that we see. Now, what's I think really ironic is that a traditional Muslim might come up and say, well, Musa, you don't understand. Islam is a deen, it's a way of life, which is why we see Islam in state and universities and music and everything. Yes, my brother, Islam is a deen, but the way you've got that applied is not the right way. This labelification is not what the Islam of the Quran wanted us to do. We have gone wrong at that particular juncture, right? So if we cast our mind back again to those 4 videos that we have seen so far, yeah, in this series, Islam is the state where you're not going to war. You're offering peace. Sure, you're passive. You're not actively, like, unlike the state of Eeman, where you actively go and take out fear from people. You help them, you secure them. You're not at that stage, but at least you're a Muslim. You're the problem child, as I say. You're not causing wars. You're not giving trouble to people. You're being a good citizen. Yeah, you're being a good citizen, or whatever, in whatever state of being that you find yourself in, whether you're a husband or a wife or a brother or a worker. You're good to people. You don't make things worse for them. You are in a state of Islam with them. Yeah, that compared to what we see today is a travesty, because today we have, as I said, we've got tentacles of this traditional religion, Islam, everywhere. Don't trust me? Do I need to remind? Let's have a look at some of them. We have got Islamic states. We have got Islamic systems of governance and Sharia. And by the way, these Islamic states or Islamic systems of governance, in principle, it sounds great. And this is what the Quran of Islam says, that yes, you should have a way of governance that matches Islam, as in you don't go to war. If you're a government, you're not causing trouble for your people. You're not securing peace for them through incorrect ways. You're not waging wars. You're not invading people because you're not curtailing freedom of expression, etc., etc. No, but that's not the Islamic system of governance that these people talk about, and we all know that. So that they say the same terms that Islam of the Quran does talk about, but their application is completely opposite. It's 360 degrees apart from what the Quran says. Isn't that obvious? When they say Islamic system of governance, what they've got in their mind, to which nobody can agree on, is this for our Sunnah brothers, this caliphate, this Khilafah, al-Khilafah Rashida, that for some reason is this majestic panacea, that if it was to come back in our lives, everything would be way better. Everything would be so much grander and peaceful, and there would be rainbows everywhere, and there would be unicorns, and I don't know, all of those fantastic things would happen. And if you're from a Shia brothers, well, the true governance will only ever happen when this hidden Mahdi will eventually deign to make himself present to us once more. This is not the Islamic system of governance that the Islam of the Quran talks about. Once more, problem is that the terms of the Quran keep getting misappropriated, keep getting hijacked by this group of people who do not wish to let go of the traditions that they've built up over 1,200 years. They don't want to go back to the Quran. And I sometimes don't understand this. But anyway, we've got Islamic states of governance, these constitutions that Pakistan, my country, has been trying to formulate for 60, 70 years. I think they're going to keep trying for 700 more years. Because if we can't even understand, agree on who is a Muslim in a country like Pakistan, then it's very difficult to go and make anything more out of it. But the story doesn't end there, as I said. We've got Islamic banking, this so-called zakah system. We've got Islamic food. There are chocolates that are halal, there are chocolates that are not halal. There's a certain type of animal that you can eat, certain animal that you cannot eat. There's Islamic etiquette, and there are restaurants, obviously, or in Western countries, there are huge markets, huge rackets by these authorities who go and stamp the slaughter houses and basically make money, clip money out of that. Yeah. Education system, Islamic universities, Islamic schools, madrasas. I remember, I think 7 or 8 years ago, when my daughter first started going to an Islamic masjid to learn the Islam of my Aba, of my forefathers, I remember the troubles that I went through to find the right Islamic school for her, the right madrasa for her, with the right Islamic curriculum, so she could learn the right Islamic adab and the right Islamic adariya. Slowly and gradually, my eyes open up. But this is the problem that we see around us today as well. Instead of, again, applying the principle that an Islamic school is any place of education and learning where you as a learner are being encouraged to behave in an Islamic manner. That is the purpose of an Islamic school. From that, what we have ended up on is a complete travesty of that concept. It's tashwish. It's a maskification of what it should have been. So instead of from that school where you ended, when you become a kharij, when you get out of it, when you become a graduate, ya salam, you are one who promotes peace. No, all you become is a robot, an automaton, who knows when he goes to the toilet, which foot must he enter with, what foot must he leave with, when he goes and washes himself. If there's no water, what else could he do? How many times he should jiggle with his private bits until they're completely clear? How should he go and do what he wants to do with his wife, etc.? We have, yeah, this is not the Islamic school's curriculum that the Islam of the Quran would have you follow. But that's not what we find. Once more, misappropriation of terms, misappropriation. Yeah, Islamic sciences, for goodness sake, for crying out loud. I don't understand this. You know, this the Tibb an-Nabawi, this so-called medicine of the prophetic times that apparently, if you were to follow, it would cure everything. My friends on my WhatsApp group, we all grew up together. Yeah. But when I see these messages come through, and I go, we used to be, we call in Urdu chaddi friends, for those who understand this, chaddi friends, chaddi buddies. We lived together, we shared everything. Yeah, we had the same education, same teachers. Yet I see my friends and they're still sharing these so-called proofs of Islam based upon Islamic science, and how somehow Islamic science is not quite what the science of today is. And I go, this is not what Quran wants us to do. When Quran says become an alim, ulama, it never talks about the kahana, the rijal-e-deen, the kahanut, or the people who dress in a certain way and who follow a certain curriculum, and then have the audacity to declare he is a Muslim, he's not a Muslim. That is not the scientist of the Quran. That's not the alim of the Quran. And there's no distinction between Islamic science and, well, whatever else somebody might want to adhere to. But that's not how we understand this, isn't it? And again, this is not the end of it. We've got Islamic architecture, we've got Islamic calligraphy, Islamic art galleries, Islamic design styles. So certain characteristics from certain cultures, Arab, Persian, Indian, Andalusian fused together. By the way, I love Andalusia personally. I started learning Spanish just because I am in love with what happened in the Al-Khilafah al-Umayyah and Abdurrahman al-Dakhil and Muhammad ibn Abi Amir and Sub. These are characters that I followed. I love everything to do about that area. But to say that the architecture that they came up with, the literature that they had is Islamic per se because it was formed in a certain area, that is not right. Let's not confuse ourselves. Let's not deceive ourselves. Let's not delude others or ourselves. This is the product of secular human endeavor combined together, perfected over time, that has had influences from other regions and other art styles, etc., until it got, the balwara, or become crystallized in this particular form. And there's no problem with that. But to say this particular style with a minaret and this quba, this dome, that is what Islamic design is all about. That is wrong. That is wrong. And we should realize that. That is how we should really behave. Yeah. Islamic music. There are certain types of music that you cannot listen to if they're not accompanied by certain types of music. I remember, because I started playing the guitar when my daughter was born. I remember the discussions I had with my own mother, who got hijacked by the Salafiyah, the Wahhabiyah, and how, my son, I love you, don't play the guitar. This is not Islamic. Well, how is that not Islamic, but daf is, or tabl is, or whatever else that is allowed to certain schools of thought? Why is this allowed and not that allowed? Aren't they all, in the end of the day, modulations of waves in air that are all perceived subjectively by different people and objectively measured by instruments? Isn't this the same as you singing? You are also using a different instrument to make the same notes. These are very obvious things. Once more, not a battle that I won, a battle that I decided to forego, because you need to somehow hold on to your relations and not just argue for the sake of arguments. But again, once more, not the Islam of the Quran. No, not how we've understood it so far. Islamic names. Again, probably I'm speaking too much, so apologies to all this, but I thought I should probably talk about this because these are my experiences that I think are applicable to a lot of people who are listening in today and people who might listen in the future as well. Islamic names. Just yesterday, in a meeting, I had a chat with a female colleague and I said, "Why is your name this? Why are you called this?" And she said, "It's an Islamic name." I said, it sounds like an Arabic name, but there's something not quite right. Is it really Arabic or is it from some other language? And she said, no, Musa, this is basically an Islamic name. I don't really quite know what to say to her. There's no thing called Islamic name. Any name that's good is Islamic. If you're a Robert, if you're a George, if you are, I don't know, let's pick any other name. If you are Habib, if you are Warda, if you are a name that's not all about unf or violence, well, it's an Islamic name. A name is a name. But again, to have these distinctions, again, my experience, I remember going to those lists of Islamic names for boys and girls when my kids were born and trying to see, are there names that other people haven't quite picked? And there were so many beautiful names of my own culture that I could have picked that I didn't pick. Yeah. So again, in hindsight, had I known then what I know now, my kids would have been named something different. They would not have been probably, living today and been known with these Arab names when they are equally good, if not better, names present in our native languages. But we shunned them we ended up basically wiping out, in a way, our own cultural identities in order to identify with something else. And by the way, before I go and someone says there's a lot of hatred that's being spread about the tradition in what these guys, no, nothing of that. I have no hate. I have nothing. I've got no problem with anybody who wants to believe whatever they want to believe. Name your kids what you like. Watch the music that appeals to you. Make up any type of a state that you guys want to make up, so long as people want it, don't force it on them. That's all I ask for. Don't force the people in my country, Pakistan, to live because this is how you want to live. Yeah. If you want to live like this, if you want to go and do whatever, you are free for yourself, so long as that does not impact others. I think it's a very reasonable thing to ask. So once more, parent your kids the way you like, but give them the freedom of thought, their creativity, arm them with the right ideology. So when they grow up and they read the Quran, they can ponder with open minds. They can think the way Allah demands us all to think. Yeah. Rituals. How many times have I heard questions on rituals? I still remember the Salah series, which ironically became the most popular series of this channel, was not even something I wanted to do because it was clearly obvious. I think it's clearly obvious to anybody who starts opening the Quran. When the Quran talks about the Salah, it has nothing to do with this 5 times going up and down in a specific way. It just does not match. Even if you try and force, the Quran says, sorry, I'm going to just discard that. You try and you want to find 5 prayers? Sorry, not going to work. Going to force in 3 prayers? Sorry, not going to work. I wasn't interested, but I had to do those rituals because even though I wanted to talk about things that I found interesting, I could not get away, even from those who are Quran-centric or interested in the Quran, their questions about these rituals that God created in the name of Islam. That in the Islam of the Quran, A, we don't find them, B, there's no justification for them. If we have understood the Islam of the Quran properly, as I would like to think we have been exploring throughout this series, 5 videos strong, in a correct and coherent and cognizant manner. Islam of the Quran, where Islam is a state of being, is an adjective. A Muslim is someone who does not go to war with others, who does not harm others. If that's Islam that we're talking about, well, what does in that Islam? Why would that Islam require people, men, 5 times a day to go to a specific place, to go up and down 5 times a day in a very specific way? I really struggle to understand this. And this is something that all of us struggle to get out of. So our cultural events, where Eid for me is a cultural event. It happened. I went, celebrated with my family, those who were around us. We wished each other, just like I wish other people for the holiday period that's coming up, the Easter period that's coming up. I don't have to believe in it, but I understand it's a shared cultural expression that we all share, that we all see, that we cannot get out of. And being a good Muslim, that's trying to be harmonious, that's not trying to go to war, that's not trying to cause conflict for the sake of conflict, who's not trying to score brownie points or not score points in the Hyde Park speaking circus. Well, if you're not one of those people, well, you would do what your fitra tells you, which is, even if you find somebody doing something that you think is, well, stupid, well, you don't go and make it worse for them. You don't go and you don't rub salt in their wounds, or you don't go and mock them for what they think is sacred. And this is again once more Quranic instructions. Do not mock the deities of others in case they come and mock Allah, the true creator, the one creator, the source of it all. Because people end up doing this way. But again, we have got Islamic festivals, right? Islamic Hajj, Islamic charity, with certain percentages that are still, my goodness, still in my country where I live in. It's just funny in Ramadan. We all work in these really advanced positions, right? We all work in these advanced positions, and we love technology, and we find ourselves grappling with AI and this and that, and the world is cryptocurrencies. Well, they might come back again. But in this world, when Ramadan comes, what do we find? We find people sharing these schedules. Yeah, again, the timings nobody knows. When's the first day? No one knows. When it's going to end? It's going to come? No one knows, because you just can't know. But regardless, there's this at the very end. By the way, the money that you have to pay this year, the nasab is X, Y, and Z, based upon the value of gold, dollar, or dates. So I don't even understand this anymore. I've really, honestly, gladly forgotten all of that. But that is a nuisance that we find ourselves dealing with all the time. We are stuck in the past. We keep looking back, yet trying to walk forwards. And you're going to keep stumbling if you keep doing it. Anybody knows that. Islamic clothing. A lot of people talked about this, have been asking. And same principle. If you understand Islam of the Quran, if you understand Eeman of the Quran, as I said from the very first video, everything changes. everything changes. Your orientation changes. You're no longer stuck in this minutiae created by men for women to control what they can and cannot do. Again, personal example, not going too much. I can see how my behavior with my wife has changed from what I expected of her based upon what I was told to how I have been molded slowly and gradually by what the Islam of the Quran wants us to do. So these fashion shows, these dress codes, even if we don't talk about them, I think this is the orientation that we take away from us, right? And this is what I hope is sparking in all of us to think more about and apply this in our own lives. Instead of asking what's A, B, C, and D, because this is what we see, let's go back to the basics. All of these practices, Islamic swimwear, these burkinis and dress codes and hijab and niqab, they are being sold with the sticker of Islam, Islam Incorporated, trademark, sanctioned by Maulana Fulan Fulan, or Hadat al-Shaykh Fulan, An Ulan, and all the way up there. Take a step back and think, is this what the Islam of the Quran would even talk about? If not, whatever minutiae they want you to get stuck in, get out of it. Get out of it. That's my advice. That's my suggestion. That's what I apply in my own life. You can't always argue and win, but at the very least, you can get yourself out of these arguments, these waste of time activities. And if you want to, use your time positively, ponder the Quran positively. There are so many things that the Quran talks about, refers to, where you have to use your aql instead, as I said before, of looking back and saying, well, akhi, the women, so-called, of the prophetic time used to be dressed, in this specific way, and then we find this riwayat in this fiqh books. They're talking about the specific, evolution back in the time of Baghdad and بعد بني أمية وبعد بني عباس وعلينا أن نتبع ما وجدنا عليه آباءنا, which must do what we found our forefathers upon. Akhi, I say, we have to move past. We have to move fast. This is not what the Islam of the Quran ever would talk about. And things get really sakhif, things get really ghabi, really stupid, really naive, really, really strange. We've got Islamic perfumes, for goodness sake. Islamic perfumes, as if we got a license now that you can just dish out and say, this particular perfume from this wood, not quite Islamic, because, or it might have this one particular component or a certain ingredient. It's no longer Islamic. Or these cosmetics, problematic. And then again, minutiae, devil lies in the details. Well, akhi, or ukhti, ammati, yani aunt, these nail polishes are fine, but maybe don't put them on before you do wudu, because if you do that, it's not going to work, because they don't let the water seep through. My goodness, this minutiae, there's no getting out of it. There's no getting out of it. And I think I've talked about this before, maybe in an Urdu video, maybe a long time ago. But that problem I still have, which is even now, when I enter the toilet, I somehow, in the back of my mind, there's still the voice saying, enter this way or exit that way. Still, it's very hard to unlearn stuff, right? Very hard to unlearn stuff. But these things don't finish. Apps, we've got a gazillion apps to do this, to do that, etc., etc. Now, what I find sad personally, just a passing mark, is even the Quranic apps sadly become polluted with, they would add the riwayat of men, the stories of men. No one knows about them. I don't even know if those are the men who actually wrote those, or these stories that are attributed to them. But they are the ones who, we find in those apps as well. And I don't think that's correct. I don't think that's correct. Before going to the next page, I had an observation that I shared in the Urdu video as well, that I wanted to share as well here. I think it's sad that people who malign the Prophet, who insult the messenger of the Quran, Muhammad, those who malign him, those who say he married a 6-year-old and has sexual relationships with her when she was 9, those who say that he would go and visit all of his wives, 9, 11, 12, no one knows, within one night, and he wouldn't even bathe in between. Those who would say that once he killed an enemy, the same night he married the widow of that enemy. The same people who say he accepted slaves, that his only children or his boy child came from a slave woman, that he would have sexual contact with a female, or that he went and he killed innocent boys of Bani Qurayza because of whatever. These people sit on these pedestals that we have set up for them in our society. They go into these Islamic TV shows. They sit in these Islamic programs and they pontificate to all of us. We see their tears at times. They seem very sincere to us. They talk about the Prophet. If they're from Pakistan or the subcontinent, they're kissing whenever they say they utter the name of Muhammad, they utter, they kiss their thumbs, they kiss the nails of their thumbs and then put their thumbs onto their eyes as if to really, they're really, they're trying to get the blessings, the fadl of Nabi Muhammad. They continue to sing for him and talk about him and give him attributes that sometimes even rival Allah. They add his name next to the same, next to Allah in the masajid that they've erected in the name of sects. These people malign the messenger of Allah. They dare to say that this messenger added to the message that he carried, that he changed it, that he minused stuff, that he altered that stuff. They say all of that. And these are the very people who have the audacity to sit on these pedestals and these podiums, pontificate and point fingers at others who defend the honor of the Prophet. Those who defend the honor of the Prophet, those who adhere to the Islam of the Quran, they are judged as non-Muslims by those sellers of religion called Islam Incorporated. There lies in the travesty, there lies in the tragedy, there lies the hypocrisy of our society, of our times. I hope it's changing. I like to think that over time this is changing, but up until now, I see what I see, and there's a change, even if there's a minute one, but the irony remains. Right. Before I go on, let me have a quick look at the comments and see if there's anything on this particular topic before we move on. So another person from Bangladesh, Taslima, Assalamu alaikum. A lot of Bengalis here. Is there nobody from Pakistan today? Is my country, my home country, where my videos are banned, again, ironically, is nobody? Well, okay, all right. Stupid question, right? If they're banned, if I have been cancelled for talking about the Quran, in my own Islamic country, well, there's a reason I wouldn't find many people from my country here. Well, isn't that true? Okay, comments from Alam. Assalamu alaikum to you. Bimanu, Zubair, Yasi, South African. Okay, all right. We got South African. Absidarian, we are live today. It's not premiere. Does it not say? Maybe I should have added at the very bottom to say it's live. Yes, we are absolutely live. And that's proven I can read your name in there. And I'm talking about you. And Kutub and TM Mehdi, yet another Bangladeshi. Okay, we got one Pakistani from Turkey, at least one. So, counting me, that's two of us. And there's agent from Turkey. And okay, there's one more Pakistani. There's one German. And there's Musarat, yet another Bangladeshi staying in Singapore. Ya salam. Yeah. Funny that as they say, the traditionals say, and I actually agree with them on that. Yes, we are a ummah. Our ummah, I say, is a vaster, bigger ummah than what these people say. But yes, our ummah does not know irq, it does not know jins, it does not know nationality. It goes beyond all of that. On that, I actually do agree with them. There's no problem with that. Oh, sorry, I'm just getting distracted by comments. We've got one more brother from Bangladesh, Saad. Zakaria from Canada. Okay, all right. So I think based upon anecdotal experience, looking the live audience, I think it's very clear that there's another Mustafa from Bangladesh as well. I should really base myself in Bangladesh. I don't know what the situation there is, but maybe it's better than Pakistan or some of our other countries. Okay, all right. We are going to continue. So to wrap this one up, Islamic labels or labelification, or this halalification, this creation of these brands, that is the problem that we see, which has made the deen equal the way of life that does not necessarily mean a religion, into an enterprise. Okay, now we're going to shift to our second topic, which is Islam submission? Is the meaning of the term Muslim better understood as somebody who submits to the will of Allah? And I think, without going into too much detail today, I would, as I said from the beginning, like to explore this topic, prick our conscience, not our consciousness, really jog, or really force ourselves to consider an alternative point of view. And maybe we'll talk about this more. But as I have been arguing up until now, no, thinking Islam is submission is not quite the correct meaning for staying in peace. Now, some might say this is an academic debate, neither here nor there. But I would argue in this little section that there are after effects that we can see depending upon which orientation you take, regardless of the result. So you get the same result, but the way you approach it, it does change how you live with others. What do I mean? I'm going to talk about it more. Let's start with a basic concept that I think we'll all agree on. Yeah. Oh, we got one more person from West Bengal, India. Sorry, I got distracted. India, West Bengal. You may not be from Bangladesh, but you are a Bengali speaker. So I would say maybe I should have learned Bengali here. Yeah. What am I doing talking in English here? There's no English speaking audience there. These are all our Bengali brothers and sisters, with a couple of smattering of Pakistanis and a couple of people from Turkey. I think there are a few people from Malaysia, Indonesia, etc. as well. Oh, mashallah, Arik, yet another brother from Bangladesh. Okay, I'm getting distracted today, aren't I? All right. So let me say a simple point that I think, a simple proposition that I like to think we all agree on. The shadow is not the essence. Yeah, the shadow is not the truth, is not the real. If you look at an object, there's the reality of that object, and there's a shadow that it casts. The two are always together. They're always bound. You always see them at the same time. There is a correlation there, but they are not the same thing. Or in other words, correlation does not indicate causation. Just because you see two things together does not necessarily mean that they are linked or one is caused by the other. There are other ways for understanding this as well. Yeah. All right. So having said that, what I'm going to argue and posit here is submission, and with all due respect to those brothers and sisters and ulama and thinkers and mufakkirin and bahithin of the Quran who continue to say that submission, Islam is submission. What I say, submission is merely the shadow of Islam. It is not the essence. We see the submission as part of someone practicing Islam, but that's not necessarily the essence of the message. I'll talk about this more. But let's take a quick side track and build it from another perspective before we get back to what I was saying. We've got two ways to orient ourselves. We've got the traditional vertical orientation, where we are obedient to God, obedient to Allah. And on this, you find all religions agreeing on. I would say most of them, at least the so-called Abrahamic religions. Again, a term I'd probably one day try and unpack, because we've got nothing in common with the Sunnah or we've got things in common, but not in the way that they understand this to be. So we've got a vertical orientation where people stand in front of Allah, this deity, this God, and they're obedient to Him. And there's a horizontal orientation where you are engaging with others around you in your muhit, in your if you're living in an ocean, everything around you. Yeah. So and this is where the salah of the Quran comes in, as we've talked about, where you're forming this two-way interconnections with everybody, everything around you. Your situation changes, you go from one mode to the other, and you're constantly living in this world of dialectics where there's constant this constant tugs and pulls and pushes and pressures that you have to adjust. Whilst you're doing that, you're meant to adhere to certain principles as well. So in horizontal orientation, in which you also engage with Allah. Also you engage with Allah. So Allah is not separating out, not exclusively facing him, but you're more spread out, you're wider, you're horizontal, you're not vertical. I hope that analogy helps as we are going. Sorry, one more comment. I just got sidetracked. So yep, we've got one brother from Malaysia, and captions are not available. Somebody said that please keep the caption available in your videos that are not in English. Mustafa, I do try, actually. I do try. I don't know why sometimes it doesn't work. I think it's on live videos with a setting that I need to find somewhere. Perhaps, yeah, it's not, I don't know why. But maybe it's time for you to start learning Urdu, Brother Mustafa. If we are making the effort of learning Arabic, well, Urdu is not that different. And it might be an unpopular argument, but I have made this before. In a way, Urdu is Arabic as well. It's just less of Arabic than Darija of Al-Maghrib, but it's also Arabic. We've got the same words, don't we? But anyway, sorry. We're gonna continue on. We have got another brother from Australia. Yes, and those who do understand Arabic, I do encourage you to go and watch Engineer Khalid, because as I have openly admitted, my thinking really got some of those last bits that I was stuck on. I really understood this when I started really following his lectures with a critical eye. And I looked at all of the ayat of the Quran. He, in my opinion, just as a scholar, we all learn from each other. So there are certain areas, certain ayat that he presented where he thought that his argument doesn't hold. And he presented those ayat to say, well, I think that even though Aslama and Muslim and Islam and similarly Eeman, Mu'min, they should hold 90-95% of the ayat, but here are some of the ayat on which it does not work. I looked at those ayat and I don't think that our brother is quite correct on this. So it's a series goes on. I would like to cover those ayat as well that are, I understand why can be considered problematic ayat, as in you read those ayat and you say, the understanding of Islam or the understanding of Eeman doesn't really seem to work on surface on these particular ayat. Like these people are doing acts that seem to adhere more to how we have understood this to be, as in submission or religion. I will inshallah talk about these as well. But anyway, we're going to continue forwards. So vertical orientation, horizontal orientation. And if you come back to what I talked about in terms of the effect or the outcome. So if you do something, if you follow Islam, you can either follow Islam by, if you follow the Quran, we're talking about the Quran followers here, or those who take the Quran and ponder the Quran. We're not talking about the taqlidiyun. We're not talking about those who are told what Islam is, written based on books written by men. Yeah, we're talking about the two different approaches in the Islamic, in the Quran-centric circles. Those who say Quran talks about submission as Islam, and those who say it's giving peace, entering into harmony, right? So the ethical result, you could argue, is practically the same, as in whether you obeyed Allah or whether you gave peace and entered into harmony as a horizontal orientation, you got to the same result, yeah, which is you did not cause harm. So if I read out those points just to clarify this before we go on, if I say that a person was obedient to Allah, he submitted his will and he became a Muslim in that perspective, well, then he will never harm people because Allah does not want him to harm others. So in a way, same end result, right? And then we look at it from the other angle in the series, which is when you enter into harmony or you give peace, you align yourself with others or with Allah's principles, and you basically don't try and harm others. End result, you're not causing harm to others. So on surface, we might say that it's the same, but is it? But is it? I'm going to give you one more example before we try and wrap this up. Let's say if you take the first example, and I've got the wrong order here. I'm going to read the second line here first. For the person who obeys, who does the good thing based upon obedience, is going to do it for different reasons than one who does it based upon his understanding that he has to be good to those around him. I'm really putting it simply. So let's follow the example of traffic laws or stopping at a traffic light. Yeah. So there's a traffic light and there's nobody watching you. There's nobody watching you, or that's what you think. But the light has gone red and you have parked up. Now we've got two people. First person who follows the obedience model, he is following the laws of traffic because he's obeying. He is doing this largely out of the fear that he might get caught, that there might be a speed camera, there might be a camera up on the lights, or there might be a copper hiding at the corner. And if he breaks the light, yeah, then he's going to come out, he's going to get fined, he might go to the court, etc., etc. So he does that right thing, which is he stops at the traffic light, but the way he operates is largely based out of fear. He's trying to meet the guidelines set on him, forced on him by a certain party. Now, the Sufia, they might argue that you evolve to a level where you're doing this out of love, etc., etc. I'm not going to get into that, but again, whether he's talking about fear or love, you are doing this because you're being controlled by an external party, correct? But the example that we've been following from the Quran, as we've argued so far, is, well, there's another driver, there's a second driver. Now, the second driver, he stops at the traffic lights as well. But this driver is not stopping because he fears that he might get fined, or there might be a copper in the bushes, hiding there with a camera. No, he stops because he understands the rationale for that traffic light in there. He is in harmony. He has harmonized himself with those laws. He has rationalized, he has understood the purpose behind them, and he does not want to go into conflict with them. He is now entered that passive state where he's following the law for the sake of the benefits that it brings, instead of doing it because he's being forced. Yeah. So as I said before, a few minutes before, in a way, both drivers, they'll stop at the traffic light. And if they continue to do this, hopefully they're going to be safe when they get to their destination. But the internal attitude and the mindset, these are two things that are completely different. How does that actually affect us, if you might want to ask? So I'm not going to go too much into detail, but I'm going to leave this topic posing a couple of questions that I would like us to maybe not answer today, but pause and think about, reflect about, consider, take our time to go through. Because those two different approaches, I argue, do leave, they do have a lasting effect that maybe we don't quite understand. So let me ask the first question. What does the Quran teach us? Does the Quran really only truly teaches, does it really only teach us outward obedience? Outward obedience, is that what the intent of the Quran is? Or is its real purpose to cultivate an ethical, peace-loving, and harmonious attitude towards others? Yes, you use Allah as your source. There's no problem with that. You don't not acknowledge Allah. You acknowledge Allah. You acknowledge Him. You know the Creator. You acknowledge the presence that is the reason for all of us being here, that glues everything together. But then you also realize that that Creator is actually wanting you to develop within yourself that attitude where when you interact with others in your muhit, in your surroundings, in your horizon, well, you do that in a cultured way, in a harmonious way. So is that what the Quran is trying to teach you and get you to evolve to? Or is it more like a strict headmaster who wants you to obey for the sake of obedience? I think this is a key question that if we start unpacking, hopefully we'll understand us to understand the ramifications of those two different ways more. And I'm going to ask one more question before we wrap this one up. If obedience causes intentional harm to others, can it still be called Islam? And there's a very deeply philosophical question at the back of that as well, which is, are things good because the God that you follow says they are good, or are they good because they are good in their own right? So building upon the same principle or the same old ancient question, if your obedience that you think is obedience because that's how you've understood it, maybe wrongly or incorrectly, or you've listened from somebody else, but if that's causing harm to others, intentional harm to others, is it still going to be Islam? Because it doesn't really sound like Islam at that point. So two orientations can ultimately 95-99% of the time land you in the same place, but not always. And B, there's a very different mind frame of the person who gets there. One person is getting there because either they're being lured by hope and maybe by love if you become a Sufi, or by fear or whatever. And the other person is doing it because they have evolved their being. When they look at everybody and everything around them, everything, not even people, thing, their environment, the horizon now just expands and expands. You know, your bi'ah, your environmental issues, your traffic lights, they engage with all of them using that mentality. So there's a difference. There is a difference. I'm going to leave it at that by just wrapping up this section by saying that the outlook matters. I honestly believe at this point that the outlook matters. And going back to what we said, the shadow of something is not the same as the real. Yeah. So because we see the two together, it doesn't necessarily mean, you know, the actual cause is whatever we thought it was. But as I've suggested, when we see somebody, the second person who stopped at the traffic lights because he wanted to be harmonious and he understood, he rationalized the reason, well, that person, if we saw him doing that, we might think, oh, he's doing it because he's submitted. He's afraid of the copper, or he doesn't want to be fined. We might think that, we might say that, but the reality could be very different. And this is what I wanted to say. So when the Quran talks about the Islam and the Eeman going forwards, it's really not talking about the shadow or the thing that we continue to see attached to it, but it's a vaster experience. Okay, I am going to have a quick look at the comments before we proceed. So there is Rebecca. Oh, Whitey. What is Whitey saying? Whitey is Australian. G'day, mate. G'day. But I'm okay. And we go for Rebecca. Yeah, no, we're not going to get distracted, YT. And Zakaria, and in the comments, Rebecca talking about Quranic Arabic. I have said this many a time before. There are many good pathways for one who wishes to learn Arabic. Pick one that works for you. Honestly, pick one that works for you. A language is a language at the end of the day. So whatever works for you, you got to find that and use that to your advantage. And Uvaid, assalamu alaikum to you once more. Okay, third section. And this is where we're gonna basically, I'm going to invite anybody who wants to come and have a talk, have a dialogue, have a discussion. Let's share some ideas. Let's chew the fat maybe a little bit. Let's engage in an intellectual discussion on, even if you got a disagreement, I've got no problem. But let's talk in a civilized, cultured manner, as what the Quran or Islam, what the Islam of the Quran expects us to behave in. But before I open the lines up, I want to remind, please, let's stick to the topic. Let's not go beyond. And I encourage once more, if you have not watched the previous 4 videos of the series, if you come up now and start asking basic questions, it's because you haven't seen them. So I really suggest, please go and watch those instead of coming up and asking things that we have covered in great detail before. So snapshot of what we have talked about. We talked about how do we understand and derive Islam and Muslim, and we did this on using Arabic morphemes, a very fundamental pillar or fundamental technique through which we make these words, these nouns, these masadir in Arabic. We looked at Islam and Muslim. We talked about Eeman and Mu'min, and we looked at some of the other such words in Arabic as well. And we looked and we found the same principle. So when a fa'al becomes muta'addi, or you do it to a transitive verb, there's an action, external action, there's resulting in a different maf'ul, there's resulting in a different object, then the form changes. And these are the same forms. And we concluded that we cannot found a religion out of that at all. And I think that the argument I made before was, just like from ihzan or iz'aj, we don't make religions with certain codified practices, similarly, we cannot make them from Islam either. It just does not follow. Not linguistically, and then we looked at the Quran, and up until now, we looked at quite a few of the ayat to say, no, the traditional arguments actually don't work for those who would continue to argue. The Quran talks about, talks about an Islam as a religion of practices. Okay, so, and we also talked about the difference between Muslim and Mu'min. So what are those two different groups of people? We talked about what is Amana be. And this, once more, is the bit that I had never quite understood. So this is, for me personally, the bit where I was stuck for 5 years. And eventually, that bit got resolved for me. And I really understood what the B of the Quran is when it comes with the form for Amana. And how do we understand Eeman be after that? And okay, so as I said before as well, I think we made good time, but I began hating making things longer than necessary. I'm going to paste a link. If there's anybody who wants to come up and have a talk, you're welcome. If there's nobody, not a problem. We'll just finish up early. And that's going to be much easier for those who are going to watch later, because instead of watching an hour-long video, or I don't know, a 2-hour-long video, they'll have a much shorter video to follow, which is going to be easier for them. So I have made this link. Let me also make this pinned so it doesn't disappear. Give me just a second. So there it is. And if I go and pin it, it should be there. Right. So for those who have not used this before, there's a link. You got to click that link. It's going to ask you to give permissions to your microphone and your camera. You don't have to turn your camera on, but it wants that permissions anyway. Click through, come through if you want. In the meantime, I am going to have a quick look at the comments and see what have I missed. I think this time around, at the very least, I have been I've just lost sidetrack. I've become sidetracked by looking at the comments. Normally I don't interact with comments because I become sidetracked, but I don't know why today I have been quite a bit more, even as I was talking, looking at the comments and engaging with you guys as I went along instead of parking at the very end, because I realized that if I did that, quite often at the end, it's harder to go through and read everything versus reading them as I go. Anyway, there's a question that came up, so I'm going to answer that question. A lot of people have asked before, and I'm going to say this once more because I know what people ask. So number one, L is not Arabic. It's not the lam tarif. It's not the L tarif. It's not L. So ar-rijal, the man. It's not that L. That is got nothing to do with Arabic. It's from a different language. I don't want to talk about why I've got L here, but it's got nothing to do with that. Yeah, I had to, when I made this channel, I had to put a first name. I just had to because YouTube would not let me just have Moses. So I had to put something before, and I thought I'll use this. And in hindsight, maybe I should not have used this, because in my understanding, I thought, well, it just sounds good because it's short for something that means something to me. But then on the other hand, a lot of people have asked for, and yeah, once more, it's not an Arabic thing. So don't think I don't know enough Arabic to come up with a name that calls himself the Moses. No, that's not the case. And there's cute books. Assalamu alaikum to you as well. Okay, I've answered you that. Abyssinian is saying, I bet you won't get any. I think you're talking about people, and that's fine. I'm honestly going to wait 2 more minutes, and then we're just going to wrap up, and that's absolutely fine, because end of the day, I understand that these are meaty topics, and what I personally often seen is a channel where there is people fighting with words, sparring might be the right term, or there's these debates, right, where you're using these fancy words and you made this fallacy, etc. The idea of putting the other party down, we're not there for the sake of understanding, is really good from a watching perspective. To be fair, I'm a common person. I like that too at times. But then there are times where, you know, you want to engage in a real meaty discussion, and it's not very interesting for a lot of people, and that's quite okay. Or you might need quite a lot of preparation before coming up. And I realize I set this up. Well, so Urdu live stream, I set up, I think I gave everybody about 2 days, and we had a lot of people who turned up. English one, I think I really honestly set it up 45 minutes before. And I think looking at the other people that I've talked about, the UK is working hours, and probably the same for South Africa and the Indian subcontinent as well. Indo-Pak subcontinent as well. Okay, Musarat, marriage at another time. If Musarat, if you speak Urdu, I have talked about a nikah of the Quran quite a lot. So I would suggest you go and watch that series, Quran in Order series. I know it's in Urdu, but if you speak Urdu, then you should talk about it. Okay. Brother is asking written papers. If you're asking me to write stuff, then no, I'm not interested. I'm not going to write a translation. With all due respect, I don't think it's in. I will never finish. If I start doing a translation, I'll never finish, because I'll never be satisfied with any particular version. I'll continue to refine, never happy. And I don't want people to follow my understanding stuck at a specific time ever. I don't want that. And anybody who says they have understood everything in the Quran to the level where they can now translate the whole thing and pass it on, well, they really need to commit themselves to constant revisions. This is a huge ask, huge enterprise, frankly, that I'm not up for. Not up for at this point. Okay, that is absolutely fine. Yes, I understand. So if you're driving, if you're, yep, now I understand this. No, I don't have Discords. I don't have group chats. I don't do WhatsApp. I don't do Messenger. I don't share telephone numbers. And there are reasons for that. There are reasons for that. I've seen a lot of bad things happen, complications happen when people start engaging offside. You know, I won't name names. I won't name names, but there's a very famous person, very tall Arab brother who lives in the Britain, who's facing really awkward situation right now because of a nikah misyar that he did with a sister, a hotel marriage, and he's in trouble. All of this really happened, I would say, because he was happy to go and engage people who considered him to be a demigod or a deity or a messenger, like religious figure almost. No, I'm not saying I'm there or anything like that. All I'm saying is I'd much rather everybody focuses on the Quran instead of these side conversations that A, I think are problematic, but B, most of the things I think if they're talked about in public, help more people than having individual chats with many different people on the same topics. So this is just how I think about it. Okay, going through, not on the topic, but no, brother, Quranish, I think you're a German brother. Well, you tell me. I'm going to ask you this question. Actually, I'm not going to answer this. I'm going to leave you to ponder this, right? If we understand the Islam of the Quran, that term properly, and Eeman and the Mu'min of the Quran properly, then can they be an Islamically sanctioned holy land? Does that even fit together? Does it fit together? I'm going to leave that answer because this is what the Quran, I think, encourages us to do. Use our own mind. You don't need me to answer. Okay, dress code for women. Sister, I'm assuming a sister, I'm going to have the same answer for you as well. Even if I don't talk about it, I think if you understand Islam, if you understand Eeman, then I would like to think that this question has a ready-made answer. It's a 1-minute answer. It's a 1-line answer. It's a very simple answer. But again, I will say no more because I like to think these things are simpler. Brother Whitey once more. Yes, everything that we have been taught, the good and the bad and the ugly, all of those different parts of it, yes, man-made. Maybe some of those bits are inspired. Like I read, you know, in honesty, I read some of the hadith, and they are beautiful. They are gorgeous. In fact, there's a very famous hadith that says something very similar, which says a Muslim is someone, and I don't remember the actual wordings, but the mafhum of that is that a Muslim is someone from whose hand, his tongue, other people are safe. And that, my goodness, is the exact definition that we've been talking about throughout the series. That hadith is beautiful, where maybe it is indeed the words of the messenger that did come through unfiltered, or maybe someone else wrote in his name, in the messenger's name, but he wrote words that corroborate what the Quran says. So yeah, they're the beautiful man-made stuff out there as well, in all religious traditions, to be honest. But we gotta learn to sift through and find things that are real, things of value. Okay, Absidarian, you're not Muslim. Well, no, not going into detail, brother or sister Absidarian. Yeah, not even going to there. You are not calling yourself Muslim. I would like to ask you why. Yeah, if you have seen the previous past 4 videos, then I think the answer is quite clear. Who should we call a Muslim? Is Muslim really a person who was born to a so-called Muslim family, who got given a name, like I talked about that colleague of mine who said, my name is Islamic? Yeah, is that person a Muslim? Or someone, anyone who does the acts of Islam? Okay, continuing through. Muslim and Mu'min and Kafir, Mu'min Kafir. Yeah, absolutely. We are always in different states all the time. I've talked about this before, but even the Kafir, Allah is a Kafir because he covers up our sayyi'at. So you got to look at the context of who's talking and what they're saying, etc., in order to come to that understanding. These are states, and you may be Muslim with your family, and you might be a mu'min at your work. I don't know. We go in between these different states. Okay, continuing on. Ibrahim Munib, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, who you are active for peace. Possibly, but as I argued, I understand these people, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, to at least once they've done this action. Maybe they're not doing it continuously. We don't know this for a fact. We got to look at the context of the ayat in which the order is coming to understand this, like we did this for the ayat of the Siyam. Okay. Yep, Bimanu, I'm not going to write a tafsir ever or anything like that. I can see there's a person, Batuhan. I'm going to take you up in just 2 minutes. I'm going to quickly go through these comments because whilst I've started, I'll go through them, and and then I'll take you up. Zakaria, yes, I have in Urdu, not in English. So no, Rijal are not just men, and Nisa are not just women. This is not what the Quran says. All those who are late, who are deficient, who are behind, who are yet to come, even things, they are Nisa. And Rijal are anybody who is in the power of, is in a state of authority. Again, modes. We shift in between modes. A Rajul in one state can be a Nisa in another, depending upon the context that you live in. Continuing on, Abrar, could Aman at times mean trust? I think trust again is an after effect, like we talked about submission. So when you are doing the acts of Eeman, one of the after effects, one of the most obvious after effects is trust. For example, if a government did the Eeman of the Quran, then it's a society where people begin trusting each other. They can leave the things out in public, right? So whether it's good or bad, but in Saudi Arabia, based upon the things that we've been told, I haven't lived there, but people, when the adhan comes, people leave their things, the goods, the shops don't even close, just go to the salah, and the salah al-harakiyah, the ritual prayer, and they come back and things are as they are. So in a way, they've begun to trust each other. But that's an after effect. So again, as I said, shadow and the essence, we have to be clear that we don't confuse the two. So yes, you end up trusting when you are doing acts of Eeman. You continue to do acts of Eeman to a level where the person in front of you, around you, now trusts you. So trust comes after you do acts of Eeman. I hope that made sense. Mandam. No, there's no talk of Muslim men talking. There's no Muslim. There's no nikah of 4 women in the Quran. There's absolutely none. And if you go back to the quick talk we had about Rijal and Nisa, that ayah is not at all talking about men marrying 2s, 3s, or 4s from women. It's not what the case is. Brother, Quranisha, I don't talk about people. I'll mention this just in case people can see what your question was, but I'd much rather not get involved in pointing fingers or talking about other people's works. It's way harder to, well, I don't have time, frankly. And to really critique somebody, you really need to understand and go through quite a great deal, which I sadly I don't have the time for, nor the interest, to be honest. Okay, we got one brother or sister, Batu Khan. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam. Can you hear me?
I can. How are you?
Thank you very much. How are you?
Alhamdulillah.
So my question for you is that with your, first of all, thank you for everything, every work you do, to teach us something, to brighten us even more. But sometimes, when we're trying to define what Islam is or Eeman is, it's all fine. But when I, close the video and in sort of like return back to normal life, we are living in different countries, and I'm calling from Turkey. Maybe you're living in Pakistan or the UK or something, but we obey those rules in which countries that we live in. We have to obey them. We have to pay taxes or some stuff. But somehow I feel like I'm disconnected from Quran, because those rules are made by humans, but not God's rules in Quran. I feel like I'm, not obeying God fully in a sort of way.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, go on.
I'm trying to explain it. English is not my first language, also.
Nor is mine, to be honest. I think we don't have a choice. We got to speak English because everybody has decided that they're not going to learn other languages. Well, there's a joke. Sorry, I'm getting distracted here today.
Yeah.
In which the English person's in which you talk. There's a person talking to an English person, and the English person says, "You are so bad. Your English is so terrible." And he goes, "Well, I'm only really forced to speak English because it's the only language you understand." Yeah. So we are all forced to use this language. But I think I understand the gist of what you're trying to say here. And the gist is that the laws that you see in your country, if those laws are in harmony with what Allah talks about, what Allah wants us to do, and they're in the spirit of spreading peace, and in that way, this is a human attempt, whilst they have the power to make laws that are in conformance. So if you are following those laws, then you are doing the act of Islam as enshrined in the laws of your country. So I don't really find a problem in there. Again, there's no specific list of instructions that you have to do per Allah, but you need to use the criterion that Allah gave you in the Quran to understand, is this law in this country compatible with what Allah wants us to do or not? And if it is, you do it, like stopping the traffic light. If you understand that stopping the traffic light is there to save lives, even though there's nobody out there, you're going to stop. But if you don't believe it that way, then you're going to keep on breaking it. Does that help answer your question?
Yeah. Thank you. It sort of helps, but I feel like disconnected. The work that we do, we study Quran and we define the terms in it, but it stays conceptual in a way. I cannot bring it to life, from conception. I feel like that, and I somehow feel guilty of, obeying, other rules, because some of the rules, they, not to get too political or something, but some rules are for the benefits of the ruling countries or every government and such. And I believe God forbids usury, but most of the countries, they do usury, and if you in your fines and stuff, you have to pay them if you're late on your bill or something. I believe like they distract you from God's laws, but you also have to obey them. That's the thing that my heart.
Yeah, I think I know what you. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, the problem is that we can again use the Quran to help unpack this, right? So kind of going back to the discussion we had about Rajul Nisa. You are not a Rajul. You're not the person in the government making the laws about, say, usury or whatever the case might be. You're not that person. You don't have the power. You're on the receiving end. Yeah. So you're not a Rajul in this particular scenario, but you are being forced. This rule is being forced upon you. So you've got choices here. So one of the choice is that as somebody whose rights are being, who's being forced to do something that's not right, you could be at the lowest level where at the very least, in your state of power, you remain a Muslim and a mu'min to others. Yeah. So you with your family, with your kids, you do what's right, even though others are doing wrong to you. So this is a very natural occurrence that we find all around us. But if you ever want to go the next level up, you want to become a mu'min of the Quran, this is where you're going to go, going to go up a level and say, actually, I think that this particular law from the government is wrong. It is against, it is actually, is inculcating fear, or is destroying our societies. And this is where you as a mu'min try and remove that. So again, the Quran gives you the way to differentiate between things. It allows you to either stay at that lowest level, the passive level, or be the active person who goes up and fights against that. In a way, Islam, Eeman of the Quran and Quran itself is in my opinion, a book for revolutionaries in a way. It says, people, learn to pick the right from the wrong. Don't get confused. At the very least, what you've got to do is say that what is wrong is wrong. And if you want to be a level higher, you need to go and utilize the principles that Allah gives you, fight against this. That's a jihad of the Quran then. So you pick in your life, brother, in my opinion, what you can do based upon what you can do. And as Allah says over and over, every nafs, at the end of the day, you, with your nafs, you know what you cannot do. And Allah knows what you cannot do. So if you could not go and change everything, that's understandable. No human can. But we all can change some things in those places where we can change them. And that's what we're going to be judged on.
Yeah, thank you, Musa. That's how I feel as well. I believe you are responsible for what you can do, but somehow,
Correct.
Not making those changes, stepping up in a way that makes me feel like I'm not doing enough,
And this is and this is a bigger problem. I think this is us. This is a sociological construct we're talking about, the feeling of an inadequacy. Yeah. So how is it that you make yourself feel that you're doing what you can and being satisfied with that? I think we all individually need to figure this out for ourselves. So what my limits are going to be different from yours. Everybody is different, right? So you really need to work on yourself. You need to know your strengths. You need to take a step back and calculate what it is that you can do, what you want to do, what you're really passionate for, and make the change in there. To give an example, if you work in a company, you find 100 different problems. You can't fix them all. You pick the ones you can.
Yeah, that's true. That's the reality.
Correct. All right, brother, if that's okay. There are a couple other people waiting as well. So that's all right. We can take leave from you and I can continue on with the others.
Okay, thank you, Musa. And one final thing, I'm waiting for your Rijal and Nisa in Quran video in English. I'm waiting for that, please. Someday, inshallah.
Inshallah. Okay. Take care, brother. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. Alaikum salam.
Okay. We've got 3 other people as well. So in order, let's find the truth, then Atta, and then Qasim. So let's find the truth. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam, brother. How are you doing?
Good.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, my question is simple. people that live in the igloos, like in Alaska, like the Inuits, you know who I'm talking about, right? So if they like, they have a very different life on this earth, and they don't get to, like, come into normal societies and get to know how people live there. They have their own nomadic ice life, right? So if they are living, like, unknowingly living according to the rules of the Quran perfectly, and not, going against it, will Allah be considering them a Muslim?
Absolutely. Absolutely. وَمَن يَعْمَلْ مِنَ الصَّالِحَاتِ, and whoever does from the good things, min as-salihat. So again, as-salihat, let's think, is a bigger collection of salihat. All the things, a set of all the possible good things that people can do. Anybody who does from them, min as-salihat, min dhakarin aw untha, somebody who is ahead, somebody who's behind, or if you take the understanding normally, man or woman, وَهُوَ مُؤْمِن, and he is someone who's taking away fear from people, فَأُولَٰئِكَ يَدْخُلُونَ الْجَنَّةِ, then those people will definitely enter the Jannah. وَلَا يُظْلَمُونَ نَقِيرًا, and they will not be wronged a whit. So the Quranic message is really simple. You don't have to, you're not saying things, you're not uttering things, you're doing stuff that corresponds to what the Quran says. I'm sorry, I'm not going to keep talking over you or not give you enough time, but I think this is a fitrah of humanity. Allah has put this in our hearts. I've got 2 kids. I don't know if you've got kids, and the people, if they've got kids, but looking at how kids grow up, all of them are Muslims. They are born on the fitrah, not the Muslim of the taqleed, of the traditionals, but Islam of the Quran, where they want to play, they want to have fun. They want somebody to be around them. They don't want to cause mischief. They are pure beings of joy who want to have joy in their life. That's what we all formed on. Now, whether you're born in as people in those igloos, or one of the shaman societies of Africa, or Aborigines of Australia, or Maoris of New Zealand, or Pacific Islanders, doesn't matter. We all know instinctively what's right, and we get judged on that.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, so I have a stemming question from that, because you said salihat, right? So what is amali salihat in the Quran? What does it mean? Because religion says you have to be a practicing religion person,
A salih is somebody who does so again sulh, the 2 warring parties, you get them together. There's something broken, you kind of fixed. So salihah or salih, again, the Quranic personality, the prototype salih as well, is patching things up, right? So if you're doing those things, the things that you're doing are the salihat. So anybody who's doing that, and there's a huge set. Again, once more, you can't say they're just 5 things or 6 things from the salihat. It's a set of all possible good things from the time of the messenger up until forever, as long as humans live.
So,
and if you do those, you're on the right path.
So engineers, inventors, and all these people are among them?
Brother, say that once more.
I'm saying, like, engineers, inventors, scientists, so people that build society.
They are the ulama of the Quran. Absolutely.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you, brother. That was amazing. May Allah bless you and keep doing your work.
Okay. Shukran. Shukran, brother. Okay, we'll take a leave of you. Assalamu alaikum. Next we have got Athar. I am going to take you in just 1 second. Just give me a second, because I'm trying to find. Yeah, I'm trying. So I've got an ayah here that I can quickly share as well. Hopefully that comes through. ومن الناس والدواب والأنعام مختلف ألوانه كذلك إنما يخشى الله من عباده العلماء. Surely the ones who, let's go with fear Allah, from his path, from those who walk his path, عباده are the ulama. And even if we stick with the traditional understanding of what the traditional says, so if I looked at the terms like an'am and the section before that, so what's the ma, what's thamarat, if you take them to be fruit and the sky and water, even if it in jibala, the mountains, etc., even if you took it that way, The ayat of the Quran is very clearly talking, when it refers to ulama, these are the people who are followers of, well, who are pondering these signs of Allah. These are not, ulama of the Quran is not the group of people who are reading religious books. These are people who are pondering the ayat of Allah that they find in the tabi'ah, in the kawn, in the universe. I just want to make a quick point of that. Okay, brother Athas, Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, brother Musa. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, yourself?
I'm good. So finally I was able to talk to you. I have a good desire to talk to you from quite a long time. But brother, I have concluded I have drawn my conclusion on various subjects given in the Quran. But it's going to be hard for me to explain in detail right now. But if I can give you one-liners or few statements, and if you can guide me a little bit on all those topics, like for example, if you may ask me what is the definition of a Muslim, how I understood from the book and some of your lectures is that Muslim is somebody who makes his decision from the book. As long as you're not making the decisions from the book, you're not a Muslim. Is that correct?
When you say the book, are you talking about the Quran?
Yes.
No, I don't. Well, maybe if I didn't understand you, but I'll say what I understand once more. Anybody who does the right things becomes a Muslim because they're doing acts of Islam that are visible, that can be measured, and that have an effect that is measurable. You don't necessarily are doing this because a book tells you.
Okay, so there are 2-3 verses that says وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ بِمَا أُنْزِلَ عَلَيْكَ هُمُ الْفَاسِقُونَ وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ بِمَا أُنْزِلَ عَلَيْكَ هُمُ الظَّالِمُونَ وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ بِمَا أُنْزِلَ عَلَيْكَ هُمُ الْفَاسِقُونَ. So that means that whoever so you are to follow or whoever does not make the decisions from the revelation is zalim, kafir, and fasik. So if we take the opposite, is whoever make the decision from the revelation becomes a Muslim and becomes a mu'min, or becomes a mu'min haqqa, right?
Now that's a good question, and I'm just trying to find this ayah. I searched for fasiqun, but I didn't find this here. Do you remember the ayah?
It's fifth surah. It's the 5th surah, and
Yeah.
41, 42, and 44.
541. Yeah, 541.
Let me confirm. You give me a second.
No, 41 doesn't say that.
Give me a second.
I'll bring it up there. That's fine. 42. Yeah. Doesn't say that either. But I think I understood the point that you're saying. So, you still there, brother, or are you gone? Ah, okay. Brother Athar is not here. Okay, oh no, you are there. Sorry, one second. I know what's happened. 1 second. I've got to figure this system out. I've made a mistake. 1 second. Okay, do you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep. And yeah. I've got to share this.
So brother, this is 541, the last one. That's a no, sorry, it's give me a second. It says 5, maybe 5.
Okay, it's come up now. So it's not that ayah.
No, it's 544 and 545. If so, the last one.
Yeah. So this is an interesting topic, because if we are to talk about these ayat, the problem is that there's a lot of terms that we need to unpack. We need to understand the difference between nazzala and anzala, for example. So what's the difference between them? At-Tawrah. What is the At-Tawrah? If you go again, an-Nabiyun. What's the difference between an-Nabiyun wal-Anbiya? Hadu wa Rabbaniyun. Hadu, are these the Jews as they've been understood or not? There's a lot of things to, again, shuhada, was shaheed and shahid. This is a plural of what particular word? The problem that I have is for these particular ayat to really go through and unpack, to get to this last part, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْكَافِرُونَ. We need to unpack quite a bit before we get to this part. In short, what I would say is that from my understanding throughout, when we are talking about the Al-Kitab, or what's been sent, what's been anzala, what's uhiya, these are things that are programmed to a certain degree, depending on the context within the psyche of the human. So when we're reading the Quran, we're getting dhikr, we're getting reminders of, so again, a reminder is of something that you know already. So it's not something you're learning for the first time. But what you're getting is so when you do amana billahi or amana bil kutub or amana bil kitab, you're now using this book as a means for you to go and do the right thing. But if you weren't doing it, if you were just a mu'min, then you're a mu'min who's possibly using a source outside of these sources that the Quran refers you to use. So if you are tearing yourself and utilizing whatever these sources are, so at-Tawrah, and there is definitely huda wa nur. So if in this particular ayah, these groups of people who have been given this and they don't do what you were meant to do anyway, then yes, you are going to be from the kafirun. So what I'm saying is there's a certain source in here and they're being told to go and do it through this particular source. But that one particular source doesn't really have the exclusivity to truth, is what I'm trying to say. So the exclusivity argument that we make is the problematic one, where we say only this or this or this or this is the only source, or we're going to get these things from. And what I argue throughout is that we all tend to know this within our hearts, but there are tools that Allah provides us. The first brother was saying, so we use Allah's kitab here in front of us as a criterion to find out what's right and wrong, and then fight against what we think is unjust.
Okay, so how? Yeah, it's how I understood. And correct me if I'm wrong. This Torah is also from. This Torah is also a revelation from Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, right?
I have yet to talk about it enough. I'll think about it enough before I say much. Which is why I'll tend to stay to the topic, Brother Arthur. Okay,
so what I understood is that if I may say, or if I put it in a way, that whoever is consciously or unconsciously hitting the laws, principles, and permanent values that are given in or given by Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, that makes them a Muslim. Correct, even if they don't have the understanding on the book, but they are somehow hitting the laws and the principles and the permanent values, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think I had an ayah open here somewhere. Go back, keep going back. I might actually find it. Yeah. So this is a very interesting one, right? So وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. So whoever does this. So again, in this one, amanu, there's no specific way that's being mentioned. So it's a bigger set of people who are doing this, whatever through means. So the means are not being mentioned. It's a generic description of those people, and they are doing the amal of salihat. سَنُدْخِلُهُمْ, we will enter them جَنَّاتٍ تَجْرِي مِنْ تَحْتِهَا الْأَنْهَارُ. After that, لَيْسَ بِأَمَانِيِّكُمْ, it's not according to your wishes. وَلَا أَمَانِيَ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ, or by the wishes of the Ahl Kitab, whoever those might be. Again, the Al Kitab is a very vast concept. In the context where you're talking about, it could be different things. But even if I take this to be Ahl Kitab as the 3 or 4 religious groups that we talk about, it's not by whatever you want to believe or think or hope for, or these people. مَن يَعْمَلْ سُوءًا, whoever does the wrong thing, يُجْزَى بِهِ, is in accordance to that, he's rewarded. Again, jaza is something that you do, is something you receive based upon what you do. وَلَا يَجِدْ لَهُ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ وَلِيٌّ وَلَا نَصِيرًا, and he will not find apart from Allah a wali or a nasir. After this is the ayah I read before. And وَمَن يَعْمَلْ مِنَ الصَّالِحَاتِ, and whoever does from the good, من ذكر أنثى وهو مؤمن فأولئك يدخلون الجنة. Then they will enter the Jannah. After this, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ دِينًا, and what is the better way? مِمَّنْ أَسْلَمَ وَجْهَهُ لِلَّهِ. Then he or she, whoever أَسْلَمَ وَجْهَهُ, who brought his own orientation in accordance to what Allah wants, lillah, for Allah wants, what the guidelines are, what the qawaneen of the universe, what he sees is the right thing. Or muhsin, and he continues to be, continues to try and make it better. وَاتَّبَعَ مِلَّةَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ مِلَّةَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ حَنِيفًا. And it obviously goes on from a different section, but what we find again and again is aslama wajhahu is something that you do to yourself, but if you're doing the right things, there's no specific mention of you have to be a part of a certain group. So the ayah that you mentioned is a subset of people in the context who have been given the Torah, no matter what that might be, and they're being told that they are to do using that source as their guide. If they don't do it, by necessarily, they're not doing what they're meant to do. But that's not the only source. I think this is a distinction that I thought we should clarify.
Yeah. Okay. I understood. Well explained. And Brother Musa, so if I say, I know it's gonna be, it's unjust with the book, with Quran, to just summarize in just one liner, but how I understood, if someone asked me to summarize Quran in one liner, I would say it's all about your inner and outer well-being, where you focus on your inner, or you establish your character with the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then once you establish your character, then you look for the outer well-being for the community or for establishing a system. Do you think there are some more changes required on the statement, or if you want to add on to it? Or
no, I think you've done a really good job there, Brother Athar. Very well described. I don't find anything to disagree with there. Absolutely. Charity begins at home. And as per this particular ayah we just saw, you correct yourself first, and then you can correct others. Absolutely.
Yeah. And three I don't want to take much of your time because I know there are other people as well, but I have my understanding on Salah, Hajj, and Zakat, and I try to put it the same way. I mean, if someone asks me what is Salah, and as per the book, I would say it's your 24/7 enlightenment, or where you 24/7 stay in with the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or you reflect upon the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the moment in the morning, let's suppose you make a decision outside the revelation and from your own contemplation and not from the book, is where you don't remain, or you're not following your salah, you're not doing your salah. But if any of the decision that we make from the book is where we again establish our salah, or we do the salah, because it's the when you wake up, or when you lay down, you're doing, or you're following the laws, principles, and permanent values. So is this correct, or is
yeah, once more, well said, brother, well said. The book, if you're following this book, like that group that you mentioned following Torah, whatever that is, if you're following this book and it's telling you to do the right things, regardless of this, these specific things, but it is setting your mind frame to be the right mind frame, and you use that as inspiration, and you apply this to everybody and everything around you. Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. And Hajj is, now this is Hajj is where you gather all the people, not necessarily just the Muslims, but it's for the whole insaniyat, or it's for the whole, because all the words are used are linnas. It's not for the Muslims, so it's for the whole humanity, to bring people into oneness, or to bring and and share their resources. If someone is not financially, or any country or any community is not financially stable, or they are their balance is out, and whoever has more the power, they try to bring their balance back in, collectively, where you bring people in onto one page, or you bring people on a one platform, and on that platform you share the resources and address each other's problem, so that the humanity can come back to oneness. Is this correct, or it's somewhere I have to take further on the concept of Hajj?
I think we've strayed a little bit from the topic. But I'll quickly just mention, I agree with you for the first part for sure. And this ayah in particular just destroys the traditional Hajj that we understand. وَأَذِّن فِي النَّاسِ. Yeah. So when Ibrahim is being asked to أَذِّن فِي النَّاسِ, so again, it's not the adhan of what we find in nas. Again, it's a general announcement to the people, bil Hajj. So with this B is very interesting. It's not li or ila, but B. Why is B here? Ya'tuka rijalan. Once more, it's not men that are coming, but they're coming in the position of authority. So wa'adhin fin nas, the annas is being asked to come with, if you take B here as with, ya'tuka, they come to you. So there's no specific place, or there's a specific person that's being talked to, who's calling the people at the very least around him in his own time with the Hajj. If I take B here as the B of with here. So these are interesting ayats, and to be honest, I have to once more go through and look at this. What I do know is that it's not going X number of times around in a house of stone, grabbing pieces of stone and hitting pillars of stone. That's not how what Quran talks about. But anyway, brother, if that's okay, if you wouldn't mind, we've got one more brother waiting for a while, so.
Sure.
We've got 9 minutes. Yeah. Well, thank you for coming, Brother Atta. Have I, just before you go, have I heard you before as well? Have you got a channel somewhere?
Well, I actually tried to approach you through an email where I wanted to talk to you, or I asked you if we can set up a small podcast, or if there is a way where I could understand more through your knowledge and understanding.
Attar.
Yeah.
Did you email me from that name?
I
can see your email.
Yes.
I can see your emails.
Yeah. So, but I know you have a set pattern, and obviously you have your precious time. But is there a way, brother, I can talk to you about, or have my understanding on various other topics?
We might do an open stream, because Dr. Iqbal was also saying we might do this in Urdu. To be honest, I think you speak Urdu as well.
Yes.
So if you're happy, and whenever that comes up, feel free to come over.
Sure.
And this is where we generally don't really have a topic, so we can talk more freely.
Okay.
All
Sure.
right?
Sure. I'll send you another email if you don't mind.
Okay, not a problem.
Right. Thanks.
Okay, brother, we'll take your leave from you. Shukran. Assalamu alaikum. We've got 2 people, and then we're going to stop. So we're going to finish before two hours. We're going to try, inshallah, aim for that. Brother Qasim, assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, bhai. Sir, actually, I have a discussion. I have seen your lot of videos regarding Eeman and Islam. And I also very much interested about that you have told about B regarding Ba. So I have a small clarification need from your side. The Bismillah in Bismillah, as well as Amana Billah. After that understanding, if I come to Surah Yunus 10:22, here the people Mushrikeen call Allah Mukhlisin. They will be saved. So here, are you thinking that Allah is different, who has his deen, or Allah himself is a system? Please clarify in this.
Yeah, so da'ullaha mukhlisina lahu ad-din. So they become sincere in their pathway and they call Allah's system. So da'ullah. I think I've covered that ayah in the du'asi. Oh, it's not covered. Hold on 1 second. So I am looking at the time there. We did cover this ayah in the dua series. So if you haven't watched the video, maybe watch that once more. But when we are looking here, da'u Allah, this is not holding your hands up in the air. These people are not doing that. Yeah, they're not saying certain things in Arabic or a specific chant or anything like that, but they're invoking the system of Allah. So again, Allah, the name itself, we need to understand. So when you give qard to Allah, you're not giving qard to Allah as an entity, but it's a system that you're talking about. So da'ullaha mukhlisina lahu ad-din. These are the ones who invoke the system of Allah. Now they are sincere in the system. So there's a specific way. These are not people who are who might say are doing the specific dua that we are talking about. Was that your question? Have I answered your question? Oh, sorry. 1 second. 1 second. I've got the wrong brother. Sorry, Brother Sayyid.
Yeah, sorry, sir. Actually, sir, I want to know, is the system itself Allah, or is Allah is a separate entity and his system is existing?
This Allah is a manthuma. It's I think we talked last time as well. So it's when we looked at the ayah of Allah is as-salam al-mu'min al-muhaymin, this is a much faster discussion to be had. So we need to look into the context of the ayah to find out what it is that's being referred to here. So again, Allah for somebody could be whatever they have made it for them. Ar-Rasul is not same. I think we had this chat last week as well, brother. We need to look at the ayat to understand in the context who is this, what it is being talked about. That there is a creator, there's no doubt. He is the entity, but what manifestation of this entity are we talking about here is the right way to understand.
Okay, brother. Maybe I may not be expressing myself clearly, but I will write a mail because with some other proofs also I have to write to you.
Okay. I think if we have the Urdu video, live, maybe come along there, and then we'll have an open, more relaxed environment, and that we won't really have a topic to adhere to, so we can talk more then.
Yeah, sir. Because there is a lot of confusion between when you call Allah means is there total entities itself Allah, or we are calling the system of Allah here. That confusion has to be cleared. Okay, sir.
Have you seen the video on the dua?
Yes, sir. I have seen your dua as well as qatal, and as well as I have seen lot of your videos. But here always you are saying that the system is existing, Allah's system. You have once told that Bismillah's meaning in one of your videos as it is Allah's system, like that you have defined that word.
Yeah, with the pattern, with the system, with the methodology that Allah has given us.
Yes,
but I think we're getting very distracted from the topic. We're going far away. So maybe
because it is related to Amana Billah, so that's why I have called it. Amana Billah.
Yeah, Amana Billah. Whoever spreads peace spreads. So he's an active participant, active participle. He removes fears and he uses the system of Allah.
The system of Allah through Allah, sir.
So again, just like you make dua to Allah through Allah's, when you tad'u Allah, you invoke the system of Allah. When you go and you amana billah, you essentially use everything that Allah has put in this system, in this kaun for you. This is the biggest, and you adhere yourself, and this is the source of your strength. Then you say, I'm not making the source of my strength to be a specific entity or a specific book or a specific messenger or a specific law of my country, but I am doing this because from what I understand, this is what Allah wants, and I'm going to use everything that this system of Allah provides me and I'm going to continue to derive my strength from that source. So now Allah becomes the source for you in a way to go and do that. So the example that I gave before was if you're the school principal, you might be doing the works of Eeman through the siyasa, or in English we might say through the SOPs of your particular college or your particular school. Yeah, but the school's laws might change, or school might disappear one day. What are you going to do now? But if you say, I'm placing my strength, I'm making Allah my source, I'm going to use his system, but I'm saying, just as Allah is never going to ever disappear, his system will never disappear, no matter what happens, I'm going to continue to do the right thing. So now your source is a source from where you derive your strength, and you utilize that system. That is never ever going to go away. And that is the highest level of Eeman that the highest way of doing Eeman that you're doing at that point.
Probably, maybe, sir. But I have some here one small doubt also. Actually, my Rahman told me to follow Allah. Means in technical terms, sir, if it is V is equal to IR in resistance as ohms and volts, this V is equal to IR itself Allah. Actually, is it like this, sir? That I have to, if I want to take resistance from an value, I have to use this V is equal to IR formula. This V is equal to IR itself is Allah, I think. Yes, sir. Is like
you're talking about the V.
Yes, sir. Means the formula is any formula, you take any formula, sir, which has been already established. V is equal to IR. Generally, voltage is equal to multiplication of resistance and current. This particular formula itself is Allah. This is established by Allah, this formula?
To be honest, I'm not following your last bit. Maybe it's because I'm a bit tired. But I think the concept of Allah by one of those days, I'd like to maybe cover this properly to give it justice, because this is a very vast topic. But the very simple answer from our topic's perspective, Amin Billah, you are making your source to be Allah. You're saying, just like Allah stays, He in his system is always there, will be, I am doing this based upon that. So you're presenting and utilizing that as your source, as your tool set of choice, which means that you are continuing to go and do the right thing. What is that specific apparatus? I think we can talk about it more in greater detail, inshallah, when time comes.
Thank you, sir.
All right, well, that were good questions. Inshallah, see you maybe in the Urdu video. Okay, do come along then. Okay. Assalamu alaikum. I would have liked to finish here, but we've got Imam Arif here. So let's have a quick talk, brother, and let's find the truth. You've come back again, brother, but if you wouldn't mind, I might not take you because I'm actually gone over 2 hours. Brother Arif, Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, no problem, brother. I know you are tired, and because a lot of people are asking a lot of questions. So anyway, maybe we can talk later.
Did you have a specific question on the topic, brother?
No. Actually, I don't have any question. I was listening the whole discussion and your Urdu section also. I have only just one comment that Islam, Eeman, I think that is God have already built in our system that what is right and what is wrong. And if you ask anybody whether he is living in Antarctica, living in a village or living in a city, whether he is illiterate or educated, everybody knows that what is right and what is wrong. You ask somebody that helping other is right or wrong, breaking signal, traffic signal, right or wrong, everybody will give you the answer what is right and wrong. Only the thing is that we have to, and doing the right things, helping others, doing good to the others, that is the Islam. And if you are giving like you said that removing the fears, what it means, somebody is in depress and you talk to them and give them some soothing advice, so that everything which is your internal fitrat, internal nature will tell you you are doing right or wrong. So I think when we are follow the right things, we are on Islam and we are in the moment category. And when we will knowingly, prefer to do the wrong things because of the material attraction, greed, or anything, then definitely we will move out away from Islam and Mu'min. And that's what my understanding is.
No, very well said, brother. Very well said. All right. There's nothing else. I can take my leave off you.
No, thank you very much. You have a good rest, and thank you very much for spreading this knowledge. I am watching you from almost when you started, along with Dr. Iqbal, and so I am following you. Yeah, it is first time I just come on, because I was just listening my Turkish brother who was talking about that government, if with our authority is that if government is doing wrong, when it is we have a going to vote, we have a right, we can go against that. That is our authority only. Otherwise, we have to follow the laws of the country, because majority of the people are with them. So we can only decide at the time of election or time of voting, and that is what minimum we can do.
All right, thank you for your thoughts. We'll take our leave off of you, and inshallah, sure, come join us next time as well.
Sure. Take care, man.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum. All right, so this was us. Before I wrap up, I will have a quick read of the comments as well, just to make sure I haven't missed anything, but I will make a personal observation, or a disclosure. I am a very basic student of the Quran, which is why I often find myself troubled when people ask difficult questions, and this is in a way okay, but I also very deeply acknowledge the limits of my knowledge. I try and not speak out of turn of what I don't know or what I haven't really talked about, and yet I reserve the right to continue to get this better, as should be the right for any student of the Quran. A reason why I don't want to do a translation of the Quran ever, because I don't think I'll ever be in a position to say I know enough to say this is crystallized. I guess the takeaway I wanted to pass on is, A, if I make mistakes, which I will, which I have, which I will continue to, don't take those mistakes to what I might have said to be correct. Whatever you do, listen from me, go and cross-reference, verify against the Quran. Maybe I could not explain certain things properly or better, or maybe there's a better way of doing it, and there will be. Go and use them. All I really want to do, from my perspective, as part of my as-salah, is not to teach anybody, not to convert anybody or deconvert anybody, or as they say in Urdu, gumrah kisi ko karna. I don't want to do that. All I'm saying is, I feel it's part of my duty, my true as-salah, to foster a culture in our societies where we talk about the Quran, where we dare to question and challenge the views that have shackled us for 1200 years. It's not easy. It's hard to break out of those practices. Yeah. So if we are breaking out of it, we're going to make mistakes. We're children. Well, I'm a child, despite my age. I'm still a child. I'm still learning. So if I make mistakes, forgive them. Whatever good comes out of me, this is largely, not largely, this is all of that going to the Quran. Anything good I say from the Quran is what I pass on correctly. Anything wrong that I passed, I did not understand properly. So take that from me as a human, owning up to the fact he's always going to make mistakes. Yeah. I'm going to have a quick look at the comments. And we've got Muhammad Kamil, Assalamu alaikum, all's well. White is short. I can see he had to leave. Oh, we've got Tanzanians as well. Kikala. Okay, we've got a few Africans today as well. Oh, we had yet another Bangladeshi brother, sister, Noore, Tahmeem. I think it's a sister. Okay, what else have I missed? Muhammad Suhail Ahmed. Well, the fact that I can see your message here means that you're not blocked. But I really hope that you have not done anything that might be getting you banned elsewhere in other channels. Continuing on, what else have I missed? We've covered the Tanzanian brother or sister. We have Shahid. Yes, we will talk more in Urdu, inshallah. After that, we have Pearl, Quit. Great topic being discussed. I think what we're finding, I was speaking to Dr. Iqbal before, and he said, Musa, I'm not sure if you're ever making a difference. And I said, well, have a look at the people that are joining us from the very beginning, where we were having this I call them stupid, naive debates on why should you follow the Quran, and everything that was written has already been written. What more can you talk about? How dare you talk about something that the Arabs of today don't talk about, etc., etc. We're not having those useless circular debates anymore. We've got a community of people who engage in the Quran. Maybe it's because we've got those small people finally gathered here. But I like to think that slowly and gradually, more and more of us talk to others, encourage our children, and as I've always said, we always have power in our own circles. So you, the mother, are the rajul for the children. If you teach her or him to read the Quran, understand, open his and or her mind, you being the rajul are treating them the right way, and you're opening up their eyes. So I would like to think we are making a difference. Are we making a difference? Let me know afterwards. I really like to think so. Okay, we had Sister B. Yeah, this is part of my as-salah, so I do share and I do yeah, I think this is something I should do. Let's find the truth. Okay, yep, now we talked about. Yes, indeed, a person who lived at the top of the mountain, does he go to the hell? That's what I was, well, the traditional Islam, what it says, I think we all know about it. Shahnawaz, your last comments disappeared. I don't know what comments you're talking about. And Maria Jose Ramirez. Okay, hola Maria, ¿cómo estás? Yep, I understand this. Yes, Sunni, Ahl Sunnah, I have no hate for them. Shia, I have no hate for them. But what they are preaching and following is not the Islam of the Quran. That's pretty obvious. Okay, let's continue. Have I missed anything else? Continuing. I think it's the same people. Finally, we have one more person from Pakistan. I just had to mention. Ilm khabar. Excellent. Okay, and infinite oneness. Well, let's just say PhDs are in short. Well, they used to be in short supply. It feels like every Tom, Dick, and Harry's got a PhD nowadays, isn't it? Everybody's a doctor now. If I were to share, there are people who have, well, I'm not just saying I have a PhD. There are people who, third parties who know me, who know me in my real life, and as such, they know that what I've done is what I've achieved. I can't share much about the PhD I have in, because it's a very select group of people in my particular field. Continuing on. Absolutely, Sister B, your children, your boys included, are your nisa. These are the mutaakhirin. These are the people who are going to come ahead, the ones whose potential is not quite developed. So don't be those parents, please, who destroy them, but be those who empower them to be good citizens, to be good Muslims, and to be good mu'mins. Continuing on, Brother Ismail. Yes, biases of the 9th century. I still have not. I think I've said this before, actually. I still struggle with things I was taught, like going to the bathroom. I still put the left foot in. I still can't get out of that habit. My children don't do that, though. So I can see that at least in one generation, people are not doing what they were doing before. Zakaria, yes, Quran is a book of certain case studies, and you're meant to go beyond. When you take the ibrah, you're meant to apply these principles to other such cases that you find in your life as well. Don't stick to just them. Derive how to generalize them, of course. And Atakhan, yes, what we might do for the Urdu session, we will probably try and set up time before, so everybody knows, and hopefully we can have people there. Those English speakers, by the way, English speakers, there were some people saying before that there will be nobody coming in and talking. Well, there were people who did come in and had a talk. But if you do want to join, maybe let me know in the comments. Are these lives useful for you? If not, we can focus more in the Urdu language, because I understand the different audiences for different. Well, not everything works for everybody. If you'd much rather be the ones who just get the videos, that's fine. I can do that. But if you want to have more lives, I think it's easier and better if there are more people coming in as well. All right, I'm going to, yeah, Brother Abdurrahman as well. I'm going to stop here. Shukran to everybody who listened once more, and a disclosure and a i'tiraf. I am da'if, I know very little. And I know, one thing I do know is I know very little. So take that into consideration after all that you heard from me. Go and refer back to the Quran. Let's hope and let's try to be the Muslim of the Quran, and even better, the mu'min of the Quran. With these words, until the next time, from me to everybody, Assalamu alaikum. Take care.